I want to congratulate you on winning the EDMMY Creator of the Year. That's huge.
I cried after because I became a mom this year. So my content was actually very different and my whole mentality was very different. So for it to happen this year of my career just made me realize you can have other things going on in your life and you can do other things and these amazing things can still progress for you.
I went back to some of your older videos and watched some of the early EDC ones and I was like, damn, she's so much younger. She's been doing this for a while.
Yeah, it's
not saying you're old at all now, but
the crop is this. My head is chopped off in every single place. I'm in my apartment, bedroom. No, it's been a journey. My build as a person, I have to be doing creative projects, a lot of them at the same time. I thrive on juggling different things. And if it's not a passion-led thing for me, it will present itself in physical sickness, anxiety, crying spells. What I'm trying to find now as I get older is the beauty in the everyday journey. I've been here for 7 years, haven't stopped, and just keep fucking going and keep growing.
Welcome back to the Underground Society podcast, everyone. Welcome Emma Kapotes to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. She is someone who I've looked up to for a long time in the podcast EDM world. She is the host of Rave Culture Cast. And just so happy to have another creator on here to pick your brain and to learn about your story, because I don't think I know all of it.
Hell yes.
First, I want to congratulate you on winning the EDMMY Creator of the Year.
That's
huge.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I've been, like I said, been looking up to you for a long time. And back when you did the EDC interviews was my very first EDC that I went to. So that was very cool to see. And seeing you do that, then seeing you win the Creator of the Year, you inspire me a lot to... You make me realize that those things are possible and that I can set my sights on that as well.
Awesome.
So thank you so much for all that you do.
Of course, yeah. You know what's crazy about that too, which I wanted to throw this out there. The fact that happened, I cried after because talk about imposter syndrome. I became a mom this year and my content was actually very different and my whole mentality was very different. So for it to happen this year of my career just made me realize you can have other things going on in your life. You don't have to be go, go, go. You can take breaks and you can do other things and these amazing things can still progress for you. So it was really special to happen this year.
I just got done being on your show. Everyone go listen to that. It'll be linked in the description. Mm-hmm. But we just talked about that, how busy I've been with this podcast and how much time and effort it takes. So hearing that is also awesome to hear because it's all right, me, when I have those times where I do need to take some space away or whatever, it's it'll still work out in the long run.
Still going to be good for you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And learning how to balance that is a huge thing. I want to ask you all about how you learned how to balance with being a new mom in a little bit. But I wanted to start just if you were to meet someone outside of the EDM world and they were to ask you what you did, what would your answer be?
Ooh, good question. Okay. I'm going to put my actual mom's cap on because my mom always explains what I do to other people. And I'm what would my mom say that I do? I would say that I'm a content creator, that I, do social media and almost, I would say marketing in a way now at this point, festival marketing would probably be a good way to explain it to people. Yeah. Doing helpful tips and advice kind of content for people. And then I would say a host as well now at this point through the podcast.
And your podcast, Rave Culture Cast, what would you, if someone again were to ask you, oh, you have a podcast, what is it about and what do you kind of focus on? Sure.
So it's changed throughout the years, but I would say for the most part, it's always been for the community, with the EDM community's, mindset and concerns in mind. So it's providing helpful tips and information, festival reviews and recaps, guides, things that will help them prepare and understand the community, and also making it a positive and safe space. So having interviews and people industry professionals, business owners, content creators, and artists as well, just helping people learn more about the EDM community. Because I got into this myself not having much knowledge. So I try to touch on harm reduction, all kinds of topics so people can get a really well-rounded, feel very welcomed into this community through my content.
Yeah, you've done a great job at creating a platform. I think there's a lot of us podcasts in the EDM world that are very much aimed, even our show is aimed towards the people who want to work in this industry or, it's very industry kind of focused, but you kind of have your target audience set with just the fans and the festival goers and the culture of everything, which is very different from a lot of us. And I think that's so cool. What kind of gave you that first idea to kind of go that direction with your content creation. Are you someone like me who is obsessive about YouTube watching and love watching other creators?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I still love YouTube's definitely my favorite platform. I love long form content.
Yeah.
No, so it was because I did start on YouTube, and it genuinely, like, podcasts were starting to pop off. So I started the podcast in April 2019. So like they had already kind of been around, but were growing. And it was really just because I'm a talker and I'm very long winded, and a lot of my YouTube tips and advice videos for festivals were super fucking long. And I was like, these could be even longer, and they could be podcast episodes. And then I don't do them as much anymore. I need to bring them back. But I also started out doing a lot of listener stories and submissions. So like a huge chunk was like literally reading emails from listeners and doing like,
which is very, very cool, because that for fan engagement, that's bulletproof.
Oh, 100%.
So,
I've done them occasionally, but I want to bring them back. But yeah, we would do like embarrassing festival stories. Like those were some of my highest viewed episodes. So it was just like a little riff off my YouTube channel and became its own thing.
What did you do, because you're talking about how you've loved long form? How did you, because you're very good at short form too on Instagram and TikTok. How did you kind of transition into that, because it was such long form?
Honestly, the pandemic, because I discovered, I would say like Instagram kind of definitely was more of a focus. TikTok definitely came in during the pandemic, but it was literally just birthed out of that, because it was like, okay, we don't have festivals, we don't have shows, and I was just like, what can I do?
Basically, I wanted the connection still with the EDM world through the pandemic.
But that's amazing that you started too, because so many people, and like they came back, some didn't, but a lot of people just stopped their pages or stopped posting, and I was like, nope.
This is the golden time. You have so much time on your hands. Just do it.
Exactly. We were home. We had time on our hands, and I even look back at that era of my content, and I was doing like skits and like so much fashion. Like I was just dressing up in my fucking rave outfits all the time. So it just, that's
gives you something to do.
That's where I got like going on the short form content for sure.
That's cool. How long have you been creating? How long has this been a journey of yours?
March 2017. So going on 7 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
So you were around quite a while, 3 years already by the time I started.
Yeah, YouTube was the first one I did was like a what to pack for Ultra Miami.
I went back to some of your older videos and watched some of the early EDC ones, and I was like, damn, she's so much younger. She's been doing this for a while.
Yeah, it's like
not saying you're old at all now, but
the crop is like this. My head is like chopped off in like every single I'm in like my apartment bedroom. No, it's been a journey.
It was just cool to see you. I was like, dang, baby Emma.
Literally. I know. It's so crazy.
So who are some of the people that you look up to, that since you are a YouTube watcher, who are some of the people that kind of first inspired you and kind of, who maybe you still watch?
That's a good question. I mean, she's not creating anymore. I used to love Jenna Marbles.
I was going to,
She was one of the people who I feel like I also learned from like community and being yourself. Like she was authentically
she was such a
herself.
weirdo.
Yes, and it made you be like, you relate to it. And even now, like I remember she was like 32 at the time, like a couple years ago, and I was like,
that's right where you are.
And I'm 32 now, so she was definitely one. Cody Ko, I've been like an OG Cody Ko fan, and he actually,
I still watch some of his stuff. His TMG podcast I still listen to a little bit.
Yeah, and he's like we talked about like entrepreneurs and branching off. But he was one of the people when I watched them, because originally like obviously he's grown in production, but he used to just film in his house or bedroom. And I remember telling myself like, oh, if like Cody Ko can pop off and have millions of views, like just literally do this at home in his bedroom, like why can't I just do like talking videos to the camera? So he motivated me to just like put the content out there pretty much.
He recently actually just did a video, probably not too recently, within the last year or two, of where he did like a challenge or something, and he became a DJ within like 24 hours. Yeah. That's such a good video.
Yeah, he's so creative. I love that. Yeah, he's like in dance music now, but everyone starts somewhere. Like those two, like common. I guess I watch like a lot of like comedy YouTubers in the beginning,
or even like the crossover with Trevor Wallace or with Blake Weber. Like those guys are crushing, still kind of tied to our industry too.
And I actually started, so I had, before I did YouTube, I started like, I was super into makeup and beauty. I still love it, but that's kind of like where I really started. I made like a beauty Instagram page when those were a thing in like 2015. And when I started my YouTube, makeup was a lot more a part of it too. But
such a different angle of being a female too. Like being a guy, I'd never talk about it. I don't know anything with it.
But we talked about trying different things. Like my YouTube channel in the beginning, now it's way more curated. Like I kind of know my audience, and I'll do some things with my real life. Like I think that's very important. But I used to do like health and fitness, makeup, and fest. It was like a little bit more of everything, and I kind of like curated that a little bit more now.
Yeah. So now that you've kind of shifted your sights into the EDM world, what outside of the EDM stuff, you also work for Beatbox. You're one of the head people at Beatbox, which is awesome. Love Beatbox. Mainly what I drink when I go out. So and when I go to festivals and stuff.
My little Beatbox water bottle. Yeah.
It's so they're like, I think for me, like I can have a couple of those, and it's like the perfect amount of alcohol. It's like just enough. They're just strong enough to where they're like, you'll feel it, but it's not where you need to continue drinking. It's like, all right, I've had enough after 100%. Like one.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Because I discovered them. My friend Vibe with Aid introduced me. I was at Imagine Music Festival in 2019, and same thing. Nice. She was like, you have to try these beatboxes, and same thing. Like it just, I'm always like the perfect drunk. Never have issues with them, and then I've been working with them almost 2 years. In April 2022, cool. I started with them.
What do you primarily? What's your role for them?
So I do community management. I started out like I was at a job previously that was like freelancing in the music industry, and then I wanted like a more stable thing. So I started out like social media assistant, like literally went back to the bottom to work my way up. And then they were like, no, you need to be in a community role. So then I was community manager. So now I like started our entire ambassador program. So I work with like all of our super fans, our Discord community I run. So anything that's like literally connecting the brand to the fans, like I'm in charge of pretty much.
Cool. Very cool. So I'm actually, are you one of the main people then on their Discord? Because I'm in that community.
Yeah, I am Beatbox.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
That's just me.
So perfect. Yeah. Now I know who that's coming from. Yeah, no, I'm part of that. I'm a part of the Discord. So
that's awesome.
At the beginning of your career, how did you learn how to kind of do all this stuff? Did you just kind of start by doing and kind of learn along the way, or did you, take classes, or did you learn by someone else? Did you have a mentor? Like how did you kind of get into all this and start doing so well for yourself with it? So there's one thing to start and to put something out, and it's another thing to like really grow with it.
100%. I mean, I think so. I will definitely say like I have been slow and steady, and I need it that way because you learn so much as you go.
Me too. I'm like, man, I wish I could be faster, but at the same time, you're like, damn, actually. Looking back, I'm like, you need to learn.
Yeah. And I'm sure for some people, like, it depends on your circumstances. Like, I've always pretty much had a job while doing this. So that's like just something I've balanced. If you do this all in, obviously you might be quicker. But no, in the beginning, I think I was editing in like iMovie and literally just filming on my iPhone and just like putting stuff up. And then I think I just like watched some YouTube tutorials. And then it was actually around same thing, like during 2021 was like a very pivotal year because I knew I wanted to quit my like previous full-time job. So I actually,
which was, what did you do before?
So I worked 4 years for like a digital media company.
Okay. So you had some previous kind of knowledge and a little bit.
Yeah, I was a graphic designer by trade.
Perfect.
So design is my background. So I was doing like graphic design work and like making sales presentations and like building websites, like that kind of like front end design. And then started the YouTube channel. So then in 2021, I was like, coaching started to become like a really big thing, and I already had the social media experience. So that was when I actually we talked about buying a course. I bought a course to teach me to become a social media coach. And then simultaneously, I don't know if you listen to Sean Cannell. He has Think Media.
Oh, I know about Think Media. Yes, I do. Yes, Sean
Media,
from Think. Yes, I do.
Fucking amazing. I've binge watched like so many. They also did like a free
Greg channel,
free YouTube course. It was 7 days. Me and Vibe with A did it together, and then I bought his book. So I like literally within a span of like 6 months, just started like binge listening to like business and social media podcasts. Took that course, took a YouTube course, and like I just credit that as like the foundation for like growing exponentially kind of after that.
No, Think is great. I watch a lot. I've learned a lot from Think as well.
Yeah, he's amazing. And I kick myself every now and then because I'm like, I still need to get back on like the education train. Like I still listen to podcasts all the time, but like I haven't been in that headspace of like, you really need to learn new skills. It really does help.
I didn't even know that you became a coach. I knew you were like helping some people out, but I didn't know you like how far did you go into that? Okay.
So no, because like so once I knew I wanted to like quit like my previous job, like the graphic design job, I knew I wanted to like freelance because I was like, let's just try this. Like maybe like let's freelance for a couple hours a week and then do like content creation. So I did that for about almost a year and a half.
Okay.
Luckily, just from the rapport I built up with subscribers and stuff, and like I had built up my page quickly, I launched a course. It was like a super like affordable course, and like enough people bought that right off the gate, and then I like upsold one-on-one coaching off of it, and it was enough to give me like literally a little bit of wiggle room. So then when I quit my full-time job, I had the freelancing gig and I had like one-on-one clients. So I did that for like a year and a half, and then coaching is like super demanding as well, and I just realized like I'm more of a content person than a coach.
Yeah.
So
definitely like can coexist worlds, but if you
you need to put your all into that. So I was like, we need to, and that's life. Like you learn what to continue with and not. And I was like, we need to close the chapter on coaching. Yeah.
Kind of throughout this process of me getting here as well, I was like, even during the podcast, I like almost sold life insurance for a little while, like tried other things. I'm like, what am I doing? Right. Focus on the like task at hand, bro. You can't do everything at the same time. So then I was like, it actually made me realize like, okay, focus on this. This is what you want to do. Like, even if you're not, making substantial money from it yet, like
totally.
It's going to happen. Just, this is where you want to put your eggs.
100%. Yeah. And like, I spoke about this on Maddie Maple's like podcast, Breaking Butterfly. Cause I think it's important to try different things. Like I really was gung-ho on.
Absolutely. I'm always willing to try new shit.
You have to, and you don't know until, and like I was gung-ho on freelancing and like working for myself, which is still 100% a possibility in the future. Yeah. But when the Beatbox opportunity came, I found that working for myself and freelancing was actually more stressful because then I was like, I need to monetize my passions, and that sucked the fun out of it a little. So now like Beatbox is the best of both worlds because they're so heavily ingrained in like festivals and EDM. So now I like literally love my full-time job and I do this on the side still, and like I'm perfectly okay with that. Yeah. So that's where I'm at right now.
That's relatively kind of what my goal is too, like get into maybe get on like a management company or something like that, to where I can still have that as like my job, but then never give up on this content creation stuff. Like never.
100%. Yeah. And you got to see like what feels good to you.
And eventually if that time comes where I can go full-time content creation, like that would be the dream. So so coaching, as a coach, working with other people, what are some of the most common pitfalls that you've seen and helped people get through?
Ooh, good question. I think for a lot of people just starting, like they have the ideas.
That's so big for so many people.
I know. That was
big for me for a while.
Yeah. And you have to put your like, cause you've been doing this for so long, like I'm so fucking comfortable, but you have to put your headspace. So like for some people, it's like, they just don't even know what to post or where to start. So like getting them over that hurdle of like, you just need to like get things out there. And then I think a lot of times people want to like get brand deals and monetize immediately. And you also have, and like,
not happening for a while,
which is fine. Yeah. But you have to remind them, like, if that's why you're in it, you're going to get burnt out. You're not coming from a place of like, you fucking love this and you have endless ideas. Like I was like, you need to focus on content and just content, and that will come later. Like you don't need to worry about that just yet.
There's so many creators that did this for 5-10 years that never made a dime off of it until finally one day they like got that brand deal, but they you have to put your time.
Yeah. So that's always upfront.
That's for an artist too, to make good, substantial, livable, to live off music as your career. Like even with that, artists don't start, bedroom producers, you just have to start making music. You have to start putting yourself out there. You have to start playing shows. Like it all takes so much time.
So many people don't realize, like I don't think even I thought about it sometimes, but I remember two artists, like one, Jay Wara, she's a house artist. Like I remember
love
maybe
her.
2 years ago now, I remember she put out a tweet and she was like, I finally just quit my full-time fucking job and I get to do this full-time. And it's like, you don't even remember. You think that just because they're like popping off and then the come up, like so many of them have other jobs outside of this, but even John Summit just talked about that too.
Yes. Yeah. He quit just within the last 3-4 years, I think. He just, when he like really started to pop off, that's when he was like, all right, we can do
and
this.
He said the same thing. He was like, I'm so glad I had my job and didn't just like go all in on this immediately. Like I needed that stability. Yeah. So, I feel the same way. Like now I get to be in a headspace of like creating. This is fun. And I always tell myself, I'm like, I get to go away to a festival on the weekend and film artist interviews and make vlogs. Like that's my fucking weekend. Like that's fucking incredible. Yeah. That's literally incredible. So but it's a balance for everybody.
For sure. Other than just starting, what, like once people do finally start, what are some common areas that you've helped people get through past that?
I think so. Definitely getting hung up on numbers because it can feel personal for sure.
Yep.
Like you're like, oh, people aren't resonating with me, or like this isn't like popping off so quickly. Like that's actually probably a big one is people think it's just going to happen like this. And I'm like, it's
especially when you first start and like your friends and family are supporting you and you see those numbers and then like what you're creating usually isn't for those people. So then they don't listen anymore and then your numbers go way down and then you're like, what the hell? It was just good. Now they're not. Why?
No, exactly. Yeah. You really, I mean, you do need to like educate yourself and see like you should be yourself 1000%, but like see if you can utilize trends to like make your content and make it your own, or like I always say this, it's not sexy, but it's consistency. Like literally if anybody asked me like the key to like making everything grow, it's consistently. I've been here for 7 years, haven't stopped, and just keep fucking going and keep growing. So you just got to keep posting and coming up with like new ideas and don't get discouraged.
Do you think it's also hard being a creator in the EDM space, being that the fan base and the reach is very niche and maybe your numbers comparative to someone who's in a different industry, who has a bigger reach there or bigger fan base there? Do you think that can also play a factor in like the numbers not looking or struggling with getting your numbers to someone that someone else you may be looking at online? I
think, okay, so two things for this. One, with the podcast, sometimes I think that because I think it is like, if I'm literally speaking to the EDM community, very niche. Actually, more so on TikTok lately. I've been like, obviously for my For You paid feeds me like rave or EDM related things. And I've gotten a lot lately that have had like millions of views, and I'm like, there's a huge community who just loves like dance music and EDM period. They may not be like, maybe the podcast isn't the medium because they're not heavily in the culture, but they like the music. So I think like the genre itself is probably a lot more like widespread to get into. But if you're like, maybe you're not into like candy culture, that's like so specific. So yeah, it could go both ways probably.
I wanted to ask you more kind of about like getting yourself out there and stuff. What have you found along your journey of like some of the do's and don'ts of marketing yourself and like putting, growing an audience, what are some things that you've found work versus what are some things that you've tried that didn't work so well and you no longer do?
Yeah. I mean, YouTube, I'm just putting this out there. I'm all for short form because I think it can go either way, but there is just like a special connection that I have with my subscribers. And I think it's because I started on YouTube and like I've done, like I said, I shared so much of my life. Like I've shared my health and fitness journey. I used to make beauty tutorials where I was talking for 30 minutes, like just literally sharing your life and being open about it. I think like makes that connection with people. And like, and you'll sometimes like maybe have self-doubt where you're like, why do people care or whatever? But you build up like a rapport.
I'm just a girl in my bedroom. I don't know.
Literally, yeah. And like, but that's where like you have to be smart about it because that's why like a lot of my videos were tips and advice. So they were made, I'm thinking like these are made for SEO so that they help you and you find me, but then I hope you stay for this other content that I throw in my feed as well, which is more personal. So like, I don't think I would have like popped off in the beginning if it was just personal videos about me. Like those were very, very much important for me to grow. And then the other content is like, so we can get to know each other and like have a relationship. So I think it's very important to like
have a balance,
be yourself. And even the TikTokers who pop off, like I feel like the people who are the most raw and just like literally just talk to camera, post their life, you can connect with them, you can relate to them. Like that is for sure an important part of like marketing yourself and like being yourself.
As someone who knows this game as well as you do you think that from my experience, TikTok does, at least for me, does not convert the way that Instagram or Facebook or Twitter does? Like when someone engages, you might not get as big of a reach, but I feel like the people who do see your things and do interact on Facebook or Instagram are more likely to pop over and listen to your podcast.
Ooh. I think it depends on the creator because there are some people that come to mind for TikTok, but like not everyone does it well. I think like TikTok, a lot of it seems to be like one-off videos that just perform well. So in that case, like, yeah, I agree with you. Like I definitely like Instagram better as a platform or YouTube. But the TikTokers who like literally post multiple times a day, multiple times a week where they're just like talking and sharing their life, I think they've been smart about like really, really like relating to you and building up an audience, but not everyone
you can
does
convert,
that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's been one of my areas of struggle. I'm like, damn, like TikTok, I see it work so well for other people, but I did it for like a year and a half, and I don't know if it was just the content I was making. I need to switch it up a little bit more, maybe do more personal stuff, but it just was not working. I was like, I don't know what to do here.
It's hard. And sometimes like the videos that end up, and I tell myself this all the time because I'm like, don't overthink it. Don't overthink that. TikTok is one of those things you should just fucking post it and like not overthink it. And it shouldn't be as planned as the other platforms. So like I need to remind myself that, and just like, I think just showing up and being present on TikTok is what's important. So yeah, it's hard, but like just talking direct to camera and just sharing thoughts goes a long way. So yeah.
Talking about a little bit more about building the community, how important do you think having a home like Discord or like Twitter communities or Facebook communities, how important is it to have a home base for your core following?
I think you should pick the platform that works best for you and where you like.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah,
is like which
some people
are
better. Really good at Twitter. So like Twitter might be the vibe for you.
I'm just now kind of learning Twitter.
Okay.
So the thing that I like about Twitter, though, especially now, you can post the full length episodes on Twitter. And then also you can post that in your community. So you can watch the full episode just by opening Twitter instead of like following a link over to YouTube, then watching it. Then it's like I can just post it directly to the community and the full thing is right there.
Yep.
So or just now starting that, but that's where my head is going.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no, I think I think it's just you should really think about yourself and your personality, because I think certain people thrive on Twitter. And like one of my friends, like Nikki Bicky, she's like a big personality in New York City, and like she's just constantly on it and she just shares whatever she thinks, and she's so witty, and like that medium is literally perfect for her.
John Summit in our industry is a prime example.
Yeah, Twitter was the best thing because it's unfiltered. He doesn't give a shit. He's just posting.
Yeah.
Discord, like on the Beatbox side, Discord is our biggest platform, and it's like a giant group chat, and people have like they're forming, you know, friendships around like a topic or an interest. So that's been amazing. But then like
I've tried that for a period of time. Discord and Facebook groups was both just forming that like people are there. I can get people in, but like starting that conversation or being, you know, that until it kind of takes in life of its own. But those first early stages, it's hard to get engagement.
I'm that way now.
Conversation.
Yeah, I've had the Facebook group forever, and like it's typically me posting in it. It's like rare that other people post, and it is hard. But I also just really believe like where you put your energy, that will grow. And like I put my energy into, I would say like Instagram, YouTube, podcast. So like that's where I've seen the most growth. So you got to pick your options.
Our areas of focus is very similar.
Yeah.
So, YouTube and Instagram are my.
The podcast is I don't know if you feel this way, but like for me, it's my baby, and it's the most time consuming, energetically, time, money wise. So like that's the choice that you make.
Yeah, people don't see either like hosting fees or all the fees that come with it, or editing tools, or like everything that kind of there's bills that you have to pay on these projects too every month.
Yep. 100%. Yeah. No, it is. It's definitely an undertaking, but all those communities are like amazing in their own right. I think you just have to, and I told that when I was coaching people, because they got overwhelmed feeling like they had to be present on every platform. But like to get started, like pick the one that fits best with like your personality that you can keep up with.
Yeah. Which one? And depending on as a user too, like which one do you personally use more? Which one are you most native to? Because I feel like,
I literally have this argument in my head all the time. You have no idea. Because I feel like I'm a long form queen. Like I just like being long winded. So I like YouTube and the podcast, but there's a beauty in short form sometimes. Yes. But I will probably always say YouTube is my favorite.
Have you found luck? As I know with podcasts, we post a lot of clips and stuff taken from our show. What have you found to work versus not work there? Because I feel like it's just random for me.
With the podcast?
Where I take clips from the podcast and some of them do really well and other ones don't do anything.
Yep.
And I just kind of like, the more you put out there, hopefully you put out enough to where some of them will do well and it's okay that others don't. But what have you found with that?
So I feel like, and I'm kind of like pivoting on this now, because I do think you should test something out for like a while and then you should adjust. If it's not working, don't keep doing the same thing. I give it like
at least 6 months to a year. Yeah. Like I'm like, all right, I'm doing this. And after that, I'm like, am I really just spinning my wheels here? Is it doing anything?
Yep. Yeah. I think so. Because we obviously see other podcast clips that I think they literally have to be the perfect soundbite or clip where it's like really grabbing you in the beginning, and even like the text that you're using on it, like testing that out, like that it has to be that good. There was one, like literally one that I can think of recently where I like showcased how I used my pashmina and my bucket hat to create like a safe space, that popped off for me. And I was like,
I saw that actually. Yeah.
It was like relatable, but then it was also, I guess, like controversial enough of a take that like the comments popped off. So that made me be like, okay, something about that clearly resonated with my audience. But I will say on the other side, like when I'm just posting like interview clips and stuff like that, they don't tend to perform like crazy well for me. So I'm still figuring that out.
So yeah, so weird. So then you see other shows and it's like, or even someone that they were talking about me following fitness people. I don't know if you know who Bradley Martin is. Like his show, he's been around for, God, he was the first person in fitness to hit like 10,000 followers or something.
Yeah.
He's like, it's like one of his claims to fame.
I followed him for a long time.
Yeah, and I still follow. I love his stuff, and even his podcast like gets a lot of views on YouTube. But then you look at the Instagram, and he only has like 60K on Instagram.
Right.
So it's like so interesting where he maybe just put more eggs into or put more focus into just like focusing on YouTube, and the rest of the platforms just kind of put in this. I don't know.
Yeah, podcast clips, and like I still want to work on it. I really do think a lot of it one, it's like the soundbite, so like being really careful about like what clip you're using because it needs to be interesting enough to like gain traction and then have people go to the full episode. I think the editing says a lot with attention spans. Like I think it needs to be quick editing, text popping up, like zooming in. Like I don't know. That's what I've seen successful in other people's clips. So I always tell myself like we need to put more into the editing of the clips. Yeah.
Talking about you working with Beatbox, going back to that, and working with other brands. I know you said that a lot of times people are eager to get those deals early on, and they're doing it maybe for the wrong reasons because they're just trying to make the money. But when that time comes, and I'm not even there yet, but I'm asking not only for me but the audience, when that time comes, what is your advice to someone like me who, for looking at their first brand deal, some of the things to be careful of, some of the things to kind of like to know this is a good deal versus a bad deal? Like, what is your advice there when doing some of your first brand deals?
Oh, I love this. I love talking about brand deals because it's been tricky. It's like hard to navigate. And like, I was not the best with money or money mindset, and we're definitely like better with it now. Okay. So there's a couple avenues you can go down to. One, I recommend starting with like affiliates. So that was probably one of the first things I began with, and it's still like a steady source of income for me now. So I'm a big fan of affiliate marketing, and especially when you're a smaller creator. Like, so basically what I mean by that is like you can get a code with a brand or a link.
You get paid per click.
You get paid for your commissions. Yeah. And some of it, like I still work with people. Some of it was like store credit or whatever, however you want to start. But that way it's just a foot in the door. And especially if it's a brand you loved, like I kind of went crazy with the codes in the beginning. But then it shows them your sales, which is really what's important, because if you want them coming back to you, like it's not just about you getting money. Like you need to prove that you can make sales. Yeah. Otherwise, cool, you'll get a brand deal and they'll never come back again. So it really is like, that's why I say,
and with the affiliate thing, as a company, they're not really taking much of a risk because they're not paying you. They're just paying you off the money that they're receiving because you have the code.
And you just prove it's just such a win-win, because then like you, and especially when you're smaller, obviously like you don't want to get taken advantage of, but it just proves yourself. And then if you work with them long term, you show those sales, you have like your history, and then you start getting paid for your content. So that's like a great way to go. I've loved doing this. This is just how I personally approached it. I kind of like got those core relationships that I've worked with like the entire time, and new people have come in, and I take on new people now, but like Lunchbox, Lunautics, Rolita Couture, like my name is like synonymous with a couple core brands, Beatbox. And I wanted it that way because my name is the first thing you think of with like a Lunchbox code or something like that. So I think it was like, good.
That's another thing too. If there's a lot of creators all kind of under the same brand, which is great for the company, that's great marketing for them. But the competition there, you kind of like, why do they want to use your code over someone else's?
Right.
Like,
and that's where I think
you see that in the big leagues too.
Yeah, because like I have friends who like are smaller creators, but they're on YouTube versus other platforms, and their codes perform really, really well, because they have an amazing audience and like the search traffic they get from their YouTube videos. So it's totally possible. So affiliate codes are one. And then brand deals I've approached in different ways. But I think once you have like, that might be more metric based. So like if your reels or TikToks are starting to perform better, you could start, pitching yourself to brands. And like pitching is an active thing you need to do, which like I need to get better at, but like you do need to put yourself out there. Yes, you can wait for brands to come for you, but that might take way more time. So you can kind of like go to somebody that's in your niche and say like, your audience is my exact audience. Like this is who I speak to. I'd love to make content around whatever. and you can kind of like negotiate that way too. But it really is what you want out of it, because a lot of festival brands will give you things in exchange for tickets. So it just depends on how you want to go about it.
Separating yourself too as like someone who's going to provide more value than just like a normal promotion team.
100%. Yeah. And there's a negotiation. You need to know when to like walk away and find that balance.
The strongest negotiating position is to be able to walk away and mean it.
Oh yeah.
So it's for everyone to hear that.
No, but that's how I've been getting to now. And I like love that for myself now where I'm in my career. Cause like now I'll have people come who want to do it in exchange for tickets or something like that. And I'm like, that won't pay my bills. I can't physically travel anymore to a million shows.
Nope.
Yeah. So if you don't see the value in a creator as well, then that's like a whole other conversation.
Luckily, I think with the way that like just business is looking now with social media on the large scale, not just remove the whole EDM equation. I think anyone who owns a business is, especially a new business or a startup or anything like that, like knows the value of what a creator can bring.
Yeah.
Because it's like how the way that most business is working now anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like it finally like people are seeing that. But yeah, like 10 years ago when like Logan Paul or like any of those famous, people or Jenna Marbles, like you were saying, like any of those people, like they were the pioneers. So getting some of the things that they've gone through versus now, like brands didn't really see them as like someone who could provide value, where now it's like, oh yeah, influencer marketing is such a huge thing for any business. So
sure. And like I could pop off the subject, but like there is a lot that is tricky though on the flip side, because so many people want to get into this. So even like
competition
for example, record labels will utilize TikTok as a tool now. So they'll reach out to you and say, hey, will you make a TikTok with this? If 10 creators say, sure, I'll do it for free for a merch pack, and then you ask for money, they're like, no, I'm not paying you, because 10 people just said yes for free. So that's the only other thing that's like tricky. You have value as a creator and you should be paid fairly. But if XYZ are a similar size and do it for free, then you're not going to get paid. So we have to like all equally demand pay,
Interesting. That's interesting. Again, watching influencers and stuff, seeing it, almost my head just went to, I don't know if you follow Jake Paul, but what he's doing in boxing, he just, he's being the voice of like treating fighters fairly, them getting fair pay. It's almost, and I'm pretty sure creating like a union around that as well. So I was like, damn. It almost sounds like in the creator space that would be almost a cool thing to happen too.
Yeah, and it's totally different. Like again, completely depending on where you are. But there's like I'm so big. That's why like I loved doing the coaching too, because like I feel like I wanted to like
band together.
I wanted to advocate for my creators, because we did talk about brand deals a lot. But like even for example, like festivals are heavily relying on influencer marketing right now, because it's not the same as like them putting out trailers 5 years ago, and the trailers sold the tickets. Like the creators are really like helping, and influencers are helping market. But if 8 people do it again for the tickets,
that's why I'm not worried about Coachella. Even though the tickets are moving slower, it's the influencer festival. They'll be fine.
Yeah, they'll sell it eventually. But but that's like a whole thing we can get into. But it's affiliate, to bring it back to that, is like a good starting place for sure.
Yeah, cool. Well, I wanted to get into, we're getting to close to the second half of the interview.
Sure.
So I want to move on to your family and balancing that with your career, because I know you just had a new baby. I know you're married. What does that look like in your life, and how do you find the balance between the two?
Yeah.
Because I know, I can only imagine, and eventually someday I'm going to be a dad, but until that's a whole nother time to time to think about. But for you, you're just now stepping into that.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine how much of a time and energy and effort you have to put into a newborn.
Yeah. Oh man. No. So I think what I'm trying to find now as I get older is like the beauty in the everyday journey, because we are literally every day is going to be a work in progress. Like you're never going to wake up and be like, figured it out. Balance. I have balance in my life, and it's going to be like this the rest of my life.
And it's always a pendulum
100%.
too.
100%. So I've kind of like tried to like tell myself more often that I'm like, we are constantly figuring out, and we need to just like enjoy the process of figuring it out. But I will say, I think you just go through chapters in your life. And when I started, in my like late 20s, and I had met my partner, I was in a growth phase, and that was awesome for that time. And we grew and we learned and we built the foundation. And I'm glad not glad the pandemic happened, but like the pandemic happened, and I had free time, obviously wasn't doing anything else. So that like allowed. So I think you just have to like adjust to your life. And then my partner is not in the rave or festival scene like at all. So
I was going to ask you. Yeah.
We have to balance that because, you know, and I went through phases too. And like just having an open relationship with your partner, like after the pandemic, I went through like, I need to go out, and I went to so many shows and stuff. And then we had to work on our relationship. Yeah. And it was like, okay, I need to prioritize my relationship too, and not just going out. So like, it's a constant balance of figuring that out. But yeah, I eventually got to the time in my life where I'm like, okay, we did that, got a little bit burnt out from it. I'm going to still keep these things going, but now I want to start having like more of a healthy balance of like my personal life. And then it was just the right time for us to start a family. And then I was very nervous about how I would juggle all of that, like with a full-time job and being pregnant. And then same thing, I think it's just getting okay in your headspace of like, okay, this next time period.
These are my responsibilities now.
Yeah, like I had to actively tell myself, like, we don't need to be producing as much content. We're taking things off our plate. We're going to move the podcast to bi-weekly. I'm going to actually take a maternity leave and like stop the podcast for 3 months, which I had never done in the 4 years.
Yeah.
And it was the best fucking thing ever.
Nerve-wracking though for you
so
being
scary.
Like, gosh, so many people are going to like become disinterested and like I'm going to lose all the hard work that I put in.
Every thought you can imagine. Yeah, like you're like, oh my God, the progress is going to go away, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Literally not at all. Like people are just so happy to have you back.
Your Instagram like grew during that time too.
Yeah, who knows?
Like, yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's just like ridiculous things. Like even like look at Grizz, for example. Like he's literally taking an indefinite hiatus right now, and like his fans and everybody, we're going to love him just as much when he comes back.
Oh yeah.
It's not going to like... Yeah, like it's not just a steady trajectory like this. Like you're going to have like different things. So and now I'm so happy, and I'm actively figuring out like how to balance it. It also is, it's hard to say, like you'll see how you feel. Like it didn't get disinterested in shows, but I honestly just got burnt out of going to shows.
I'm already there, and I don't have a kid. So.
Yeah, no, and it started for me like maybe 2022. I want to say like I just felt differently about the crowds. I felt differently about being out that late at night. And then I slowly stopped going to as many shows. Now I go to them like once in a blue moon. Like I never thought that would change for me, and it just did. So like my just life changed.
I try and keep myself. Yeah. The local stuff, I have a hard time going to unless like one of my guys is playing or something. But yeah, the only local stuff I go to is like Martin Garrix is coming to town. I'm going to go to Martin Garrix, or like someone huge is like doing a tour stop. I'll go to those, or Wobbleland, a big massive event like that where, you know, the top artists are playing, but it takes a lot for me. Like I'm not just going to go out for like someone who I'm not really interested in seeing. Yeah. You know, where it used to before it was like, oh, it's just a night out. Cool. I don't care who's playing.
And it's expensive.
Yeah.
Like we talked about.
Yeah, that too.
It's expensive. Like it costs money to do all these things. And for anyway, but I got to the point where it's like, okay, this gets to be this beautiful part of my life now where like being a mom and like nurturing my relationships, like career growth was the goal. Right now, like the goal is like family and home.
Personal growth,
and that's going to be beautiful. And like, I just got back from a festival. That was an amazing experience. So it is just like finding a balance.
That's cool that you're continuing to do what you love though, and not just like, all right, that was a phase in my life, and now it's time for me to be a mom. Because a lot of people are just like, disregard who I was in the past. Like, and then now it's like, this is what I do. And it's like, why did you like?
And you don't know how you're going to feel either. And that could be in like that could be getting into a relationship with somebody. Like sometimes things just change for you. Like I didn't know how I would feel coming back from the festival. And like, I actually like, it hit me way harder when I got home. And I was like, oh, I think I actually want to travel. I might take some festivals off my plate this year because he's only going to be under a year once in his life. So it's a balance.
That's the other thing too. It's like you want to soak up this time with your kid, I'm sure, as much as possible. Because like, they're only a newborn once. And then all of a sudden you're going to blink, he's going to be 18 or he's a boy, right? Yeah.
No, but it's so true. But yeah. And I've talked to other parents too, and they've been really amazing. Like it's opened this whole other world of like, you know, rave parents, and so many people have reached out to me, which is like, it's kind of unlocked this whole thing. I will say that too. Like you're so afraid of maybe closing chapters or starting new things. And then what's dawned on me more recently is like the amount of parents that have come forward, and they're like, you posting about being a mom has helped me. And I'm like, okay.
There's a lot more parents that rave than you would think.
100%. And so I've been like I think I just unlocked this whole other demographic of people
That's
now.
awesome. And something that you could talk about too with your content.
100%.
Yeah, because people are actually interested in that. That's awesome.
Yeah, but it is totally possible. You can get older in this scene. You can have families in this scene. Like, it's doable.
So how does that work? You said your husband does not go to events.
Yeah.
Is he just not interested, or is it like what?
Yeah, he's just like not about it at all. It's so funny. No, he's like come with me to like the occasional show. He came with me to the Dom Dalla show this past year, which was really fun. But no, when we met, like I was just starting out all this stuff. So he's been like a supporter. He's been my cheerleader, like has helped me get equipment. He's been amazing. But it's just like he is a Capricorn, like at home, I want to chill and do nothing kind of energy. And
does he like the music?
Kind of. He'll listen to it. Yeah. He used to do his like clubbing days of like his early 20s. And he was like, I just want to like chill at home now. Different vibe. We just have our own things that we do like outside of it together. And then I'd say for me, because I work in the scene, like
it's different when you're
he's
work
been so great. He's like,
just,
you have a job. Go do your job. Like, go do your thing. Like, I'll hold it down here. So we just
that's awesome.
Figure it out and balance each other out. But you have to be,
cool.
I did episodes on this before. Like, I think it's just communication and being respectful to your partner too.
Regardless of what you do for a living, communication is key regardless. So
and just respecting their and like I said, I definitely went overboard. Like we've talked about that. Like I had that phase where I was like going out all the time, and then I looked at it and I was like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? I need to be home more. So you're gonna make mistakes, but you just gotta like find a balance.
So what's your now that you have a kid?
Yes.
And I can only imagine relating it to my story, my mom was such a big avid concert goer. With me growing up, what's your opinion on your kid being around the scene, and how are you going to work through that when the time comes?
I know. I'm so glad you told that story, because that actually made me think about it, because I think that's beautiful that your mom took you. That's like, so did you go to all genres with her?
Oh yeah. Country, gosh, Christian music, rock. I've seen the Eagles. I've seen
that's awesome.
Yeah, so many people. Yeah.
And how
R&B,
young?
I've seen Justin Timberlake. So many.
How
people.
young were you when you started going?
Gosh, my first concert was Kenny Loggins, and I was 3 years old.
Oh, that's so cool.
And ever since then, I just grew up going to concerts. Yeah.
Yeah. See. Okay. So similar. I think I was interested in. My mom took me to like the Backstreet Boys, like when I was whatever, I don't know, fifth grade. I want to say was my first show, and it was like more pop stuff before. It was like then it was like rock and pop punk scene.
I know it's crazy when I hear people like around me. I'm like, oh, how old were you when you went to your first concert? And they're like a lot older. And I was like, am I the only one that went? Like, I barely even remember that concert.
He came with me to 2 festivals in my womb, so he's been to 2 festivals already.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did that with my mom as well. Yeah,
I think the same thing, because I just loved live music. Period. So I think like as soon as like that is going to be a thing, I would love to take him around. It's more so just because like I said, I did some camping festivals, and there were like little kids, because they were all age events. It was honestly more like smoking and stuff bothered me, because I was like, I don't know if I'd want them in a crowd of like weed kind of thing. Right. Other than that, I think festivals that are all ages are like so cool and fun. And like we saw little kids, like Electric Forest was such a fun one. We were trading candy.
I didn't know they allowed
kids.
Kids there.
Oh yeah, big family one. So
interesting.
And like it wasn't late at night. It was for the earlier sets, but like they're hanging out like with a picnic. So like, I could totally see taking him to shows and festivals for sure.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm worried about like just to be transparent. What's your thoughts on like party favors? And like you said, smoking would be a concern for you, but what about all the other stuff that comes with this industry?
I guess when they get to that age, that'll be a fun thing that we'll have to deal with at that point.
I've talked to parents about it who were like older, who had kids roughly my age that were still connected to the scene. And they're like, we'd rather them do things like that with us from the people that we know that is going to be safe if they're going to do it and be around it once they're adults.
Sure.
Obviously not in their teenage years, but once that time comes, like they'd rather teach them the right way and be safe and test shit and do the right thing than for them to just buy from random person in the crowd that's not tested. That's so
I think I haven't thought about too much. I don't know as far as like with me, I would definitely say I know, but I mean at least like on the harm reduction front, like having those conversations, and like I'd rather be upfront and like
I'm very
talk
grateful
about
that my parents very much talked to me about even like. Not that this has anything really has to do anything with like EDM, but like sexual safety, like drug safety, all that kind of stuff. Like just the awareness of it, I think is important.
100%. And I have friends like who have a son who I think he just turned 21, I want to say, but they brought him to Wakan, and like even just I think again just visibility, seeing how they handled it with him, and they like sat him down and said like he's going to go off and do sets without us, and they just told him like people might offer you things, this might happen, and like they just prepared him and kind of like told him what to expect. So I think like even just having those types of conversations, but it's more just a concern with obviously like things being contaminated and stuff like that right now, like just testing your stuff and having those conversations,
especially with the craziness of fentanyl going on right now. Like, scary. Scary.
Exactly. Yeah.
Random, but when I was doing I was looking at some other interview. I think I was watching the Lizzie Jane episode that you did with on her podcast. And I saw a date tattooed on your collarbone.
Oh yeah.
Random, but I wanted to ask you what that was.
1/22/22 is my wedding anniversary.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just had our 2-year wedding anniversry.
Well, congrats.
Thank
That's awesome.
you.
Well, we were talking, going back to your career stuff, kind of to wrap us up here. You mentioned in the pre-interview questions that you were struggling with setting boundaries as well as like working in a career that didn't really align with what you wanted.
Yeah.
Can we kind of just wrap up the interview by like talking about like that main challenge for you?
Sure. No, and I love talking about this topic because I think like everybody's journey is different. But for me, I don't know if you guys believe in like human design, but I'm a manifesting generator. And when I like learned more about what that means, so like just my build as a person, like I have to be doing creative projects, a lot of them at the same time. Like I thrive on juggling different things. And if it's not like a passion led thing for me, like I get like it will present itself in physical sickness. Like I got sick at previous jobs.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Like anxiety, crying spells. Like I kind of like went through all of that. And it's typically towards the end of a job, like my body will start to show physical signs of like, you're not supposed to be where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So towards the end of the job, I think just once I figured out, and like same for you, kind of like knowing the direction you want to go in. Once I started, like all of this was growing and I was like, that's the industry I want to be in. That's like the passion and purpose for me. At first, it just was like feeling stuck and like that victim mentality of like, well, this is what I'm doing and blah, blah, blah. And then I just kind of like redirected it towards like, okay, like what are the actual action items and baby steps we have to take to make a change in our life? Because quitting a job is scary and like having stability is fucking scary. So it's
especially when it's something that's like for yourself, where you're relying on yourself. Like it's not just, I have to be here at a certain time and I get a paycheck. It's,
and it's a career change. Yeah, like you're totally going out of the industry. Like
completely.
Yeah. So it was like once I did that. So actually, I failed to mention this, but like I ended up getting a coach, Maddie Maple. She's like in the scene as well. So I ended up being like, for me to get out of this place, like I need to like mentally make some changes. So like went on like a whole spirituality journey, which is a separate thing, but simultaneously kind of like went on a spirituality journey and started working with a coach. And she just helped me figure out like, okay, these are clearly the things we want to do. Like, let's make the baby steps to happen.
I also worked with a life coach. Actually, he started a podcast.
That.
I don't know if you know, do you know Nick Jerwink?
That name sounds familiar.
He runs Headliner Mindset.
Okay,
He just started.
Yep.
But I edit that show for him.
Nice.
Gosh, we've been friends for a long. He's a life coach as well. An artist coach, and he was my life coach for a while at like the beginning of my show. But yeah, working with someone like that who can like kind of, you already know the answers are already inside of you, but someone who can just pull that out and show them to you, like
100%.
That's a cool tool.
Yeah, and it's sometimes the answers aren't like clear. Like there weren't like necessarily the exact job opportunities that I wanted, but what she ended up helping me figure out was like, okay, you can freelance and combine multiple incomes to be able to leave your job. So like I think within working with her, I quit that like full-time position in like 2 months. And then exactly like what she said, I had lined up the coaching stuff to do part-time, and then I found a freelancing gig. So like I just started the conversations and then had to make that jump, and then like kind of like the rest is history. But I feel like once you get on the path that you're aligned with, things start to like happen more quickly. So
it's crazy. Yeah. Like all of a sudden you're like, for me, even just like running the podcast, like getting like some dream guests or whatever, for an example, like you're like, how is this happening? Right. Just because I made a decision to go this direction. How is this?
Because your work, you start co-creating with like the universe and like putting things out there. And then once your energy shifts, because like that was a big thing. Like I was in such a bad mindset for so long. I was like, well, how can I manifest anything good? Because I'm in like such a shitty mindset, but like good things can still really happen for you if you focus on what you want at the end of the day. So yeah, and it all works out. It all worked out.
What about the setting boundaries part of this equation? When did you, or how did you struggle with that?
Oh God, I'm still struggling with that. That's just like the type of person I am. So I like emotional boundaries, everything. I just was like, I said yes to everything. I think that was the problem. Like when opportunities present themselves, if you have a scarcity mindset, you think they won't come up again or whatever. So I think just from like my work and then trying to get content out and taking on every brand, like I just said yes to everything. And then I realized like, okay, we need to set.
I can't do all this.
Yeah. We need to like set work boundaries and other things. And even like I had a job that kind of like overstepped some work boundaries too. And it wasn't as much of a balance. So I had to like get really good at being like my number one supporter.
That's so important when you're working for yourself too.
You have to speak up for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
And you have to know like your limits too. Like, gosh, I can't. Balance is something that I've struggled for such a long time to learn, but now I'm finally grasping the concept of that. And gosh, you're not Superman. You're not Superwoman. Like you can't do everything that comes your way.
Yeah, work smarter, not harder, and get help too. I didn't mention that. Like again, like I'm on my own now, and that needs to change. But I did hire a virtual assistant for like almost 2 years, and one of my friends helped me edit the podcast and run my socials for like almost 2 years. So I'm not working with either of them right now, and I'm feeling that pressure again. But getting help is important.
Yes. Well, awesome. We are getting to the end here, but I wanted you to go ahead and plug anything that you're working on currently, your podcast. Where can everyone get in touch with you?
Beautiful.
And
so we're at Rave Culture Cast on all the platforms. Right now the podcast is every Wednesday. Just put up a ton of Groove Cruise content, and I've got some interesting guests coming up. You're coming up with the podcast, so that will be out. And then just personally, I'm just sharing my journey under my name at Emma Kapotes. I'm like on all the platforms, and that's like I'm trying to do more like behind the scenes, show my mom life, raves, festivals, trying to help you guys figure out, navigate this world pretty much. Yeah. And I'll be at Beyond Wonderland if I want to see anybody.
Sweet. Well, thank you for all that you do. Thank you for inspiring not only me, but so many other people around you. And thank you so much for your time today. And thank you again, also, everyone who is listening to this, go listen to the episode I did on her show. Thank you for having me on that. So
thank you so much.
It's awesome finally being able to do this.
I know, I appreciate it. This was such a fun conversation, so thank you.